Hello friends, before we start, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment with where you're from and what time you're watching. That way, YouTube will keep showing you stories just like this one. Now, let's begin. It was October 2019, a Wednesday night just past 11:45 p.m. when my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I remember the time clearly because I had been half asleep, the TV murmuring some late-night rerun in the background. When I saw the caller ID, I smiled. It was Ethan, my younger brother. He was on the road that night, driving from Bozeman to Fairbanks, taking the long route through the Yukon Highway, planning to photograph the aurora borealis for his travel blog. It was a 7-hour drive through mountains, pine forests, and long, empty stretches of asphalt that could swallow a person whole. I had begged him not to drive that far alone, but Ethan always thought my worries were dramatic. "Hey, Jess," he said, his voice breaking through light static. "Just checking in." I pulled over to stretch my legs. There was a faint clicking sound in the background, his car's hazard lights. He told me he'd stopped at a small gravel turnout somewhere near mile marker 313, about 4 hours north of Talk. He said there was a clearing that overlooked the valley, that he could almost see the glow of the northern lights through thin clouds. "You're alone out there?" I asked, already knowing the answer. Ethan chuckled. "Yeah, haven't seen another car in 30 minutes. Feels like I'm the last person on Earth." That's what he always said when he was chasing solitude. I could hear him open the car door, the little dinging alert when the keys stayed in the ignition. He said he just needed to grab water from the cooler and stretch his back. 5 minutes, he said. "Then I'll be on my way." I told him to text me once he started driving again. He laughed softly. "You worry too much." And then, the call dropped. At first I thought it was just the bad signal, but 15 minutes passed, then 30. I sent him a quick, "You good?" text, but it stayed on delivered. Another 10 minutes, still no reply. By 1 a.m., I'd called his phone 6 times, straight to voicemail. No ring, no sound. I told myself he probably lost service, or maybe he dozed off for a nap. But Ethan never napped in random places, especially not freezing Alaskan highways. He was too careful for that. At 2:15 a.m., something inside me broke. I called the Alaska State Troopers. The dispatcher was calm, almost too calm. "Ma'am, it's only been a couple of hours since you last heard from him." But when I explained the situation, the exact location he'd described, the stretch of road, the fact that his phone went dead, her tone changed. She asked for Ethan's details: full name, vehicle make, license plate, description of clothing. He was driving his 2017 gray Toyota 4Runner, wearing his navy hiking jacket and brown beanie. The dispatcher said they'd send a trooper to check the area around sunrise. I didn't sleep. I sat on my couch, staring at the dark window, refreshing my phone every few seconds. At 7:14 a.m., the call came. A man's voice this time, Trooper Halverson. They'd found Ethan's SUV near mile marker 313, exactly where he'd said he'd stopped. The driver's door was wide open, hazard lights still blinking weakly. His backpack was on the passenger seat, wallet and cash untouched inside. His camera, the one he took everywhere, was on the floor by the pedals. The screen cracked. Keys still in the ignition. Engine started right up. But here's the part that made my stomach drop. The engine was still warm when they found it, even though it had been at least 7 hours since our last call. Either Ethan had been there minutes before the troopers arrived, or someone else had been running his car through the night. I drove up there that same morning. 5 hours of empty roads and panic. By the time I reached the site, there were 3 trooper vehicles, a K-9 unit, and a couple of volunteers. The pullout was small, just enough for a few cars, surrounded by dense spruce trees on one side and a steep ravine on the other. They wouldn't let me near his vehicle. It was now an active scene. But I could see through the window, Ethan's coffee mug half full in the cup holder, a pack of trail mix open on the console, his camera lens cap on the floor. It looked like he'd stepped out for 1 minute and never came back. A trooper told me their dogs had picked up Ethan's scent leading toward the tree line, but it stopped just 30 feet in. Completely stopped. No footprints beyond that point. The handler, an older guy named Mike, shook his head. In 30 years of doing this, I've never seen a trail just vanish, he said quietly. Not even in rain. Not like this. They searched the area for 3 days. Helicopters, drones, thermal cameras, even volunteers walking shoulder to shoulder through the brush. Nothing. On the second day, they found his jacket, folded neatly on a moss-covered rock, deep in the woods, almost a quarter-mile from the car. No footprints leading to or from it. The ground was soft and damp. There should have been tracks. The third day brought something even worse. The memory card from his camera had been ejected and placed on the hood of the 4Runner, right in plain sight. No fingerprints on it except his. It hadn't been there the day before. When the techs looked through it, there were 93 photos taken between 11:46 p.m. and 3:02 a.m. Every single one was black, pitch black, though the flash had fired in each. Metadata confirmed the phone, and camera hadn't moved from the car during that time. The troopers were baffled. They suggested maybe the lens cap had been on, but I'd seen that cap lying on the floorboard since the first day. Weeks passed with no answers. The official explanation: Ethan must have wandered off during a mental break, succumbed to exposure. I wanted to scream every time someone said it. He was calm, methodical, grounded, not someone who'd walk barefoot into sub-zero woods leaving everything behind. I hired a private investigator, Mark Rourke, a retired detective out of Anchorage. He went over the case from scratch. A month later, he found something the police had buried in their reports. In the 8 years before Ethan vanished, there had been 7 other disappearances within a 10-mile stretch of that same highway section. Different people, different times of year. But every single one had stopped between mile markers 310 and 320. Every single one's vehicle was found with the engine still warm, door open, personal items untouched. None of them were ever found. Locals called it the dead turnout. It was whispered about in small-town diners and truck stops, like an urban legend nobody wanted to believe. A few months later, I drove up there again. I know it was stupid, but I had to see it. The pullout was exactly the same. Gravel dusted with frost, a faint smell of oil and pine, a crooked sign half buried in snow. Mile 313. I parked where his car had been, left the engine running. The forest around me was silent. No wind, no birds, just heavy, endless stillness. I stood there, staring at the tree line, trying to imagine what Ethan saw that night. My phone had no service, but I turned the flashlight on and took a few photos anyway. Nothing. Then I noticed something odd on the ground near my tire. A folded map, damp and torn at the edges. It was the same type of travel map Ethan always used. In the corner, scrawled in pencil, was a small note in handwriting that looked like his. "Don't look at the lights." My hands went numb. Before I could think, my phone vibrated in my pocket. No service, but somehow, it was ringing. The screen said, "Unknown." I hesitated, then answered. For a second, there was nothing. Just soft, hollow wind, like air moving through trees. Then I heard a voice. Not clear, not loud, just a whisper through static. "Jess, leave." I froze. "Ethan?" No response. Just that sound again, like something breathing in rhythm with my pulse. The call ended after 7 seconds. When I checked my call log, it wasn't there. I got back in my car, locked the doors, and drove until I hit the next town. Didn't stop. Didn't look back. 2 weeks later, I brought the phone to a tech friend of mine, Alex, who used to work in forensics. He pulled the system logs and found something impossible. Between 11:47 p.m. and 2:47 a.m., the night Ethan disappeared, his phone had received 17 incoming calls, all from non-existent numbers, no carrier, no origin, each lasting exactly 7 seconds. The last one came in 3 minutes before his last camera photo. It's been almost 6 years now. They never found him. His case sits open, gathering dust. Sometimes I still drive that route when I can't sleep. I'll pull over near mile 313, sit there with the hazards blinking in the dark, listening. The woods feel wrong there, like the silence is alive. Once, just last winter, I swear I saw a faint greenish light flicker between the trees, the same hue as the northern lights, except it was pulsing, closer to the ground, like it was breathing. I didn't stick around to find out. Now, every few weeks I'll get a random notification flash on my phone, just a quick vibration, and the screen lighting up for no reason. Nothing in the log, no missed call. But sometimes, if I'm fast enough, I'll see it. The word unknown flickering for half a second before disappearing. And every time it happens, I hear his voice again in my head. That faint whisper from the static. Jess, leave. But I can't, because I still need to know what's waiting beyond that tree line at mile 313. And deep down, I think Ethan is still there, somewhere in that blackness, trying to warn me not to follow. Everyone tells you to trust your gut when something doesn't feel right, but no one really prepares you for the moment when that instinct is the only thing keeping you alive. My name's Rachel Avery, and in 2016, I was 25, a brand new nurse working the trauma ward at Providence Hospital in Anchorage, Alaska. I'd only been on the job 3 months, still figuring out night shifts, the pace, and how to stop crying in the parking lot after tough cases. Back then, my boyfriend, Mark, lived in Homer, a small coastal town about 4 hours south. Every Friday after my shift, I'd drive down Glacier Highway to spend the weekend there. I'd done that route dozens of times. Long winding roads through forests, cliffs, and patches of open black sea, until the trip that changed everything. It was April 9th, cold, with rain-threatening snow. I'd just finished a 12-hour shift, but I didn't want to wait till morning. I was exhausted, but stubborn. I remember tossing my scrubs in the back seat, grabbing a Red Bull, and telling myself, "You'll be fine, just drive slow." I wasn't fine. By the time I left Anchorage, it was a few minutes past 11:15 p.m. The highway was deserted, slick from melting snow, with nothing around but mountains and ocean. You get used to that silence, the kind that hums in your ears. But that night, it felt different, heavier. About an hour in, my high beams caught something up ahead. A silver SUV parked half on the shoulder, half blocking the lane, with its hazard lights flashing. It wasn't unusual. That stretch saw plenty of breakdowns. Still, I slowed down, moving into the opposite lane to give space. That's when I saw it. Someone was crouched behind the SUV, not fixing anything, not checking the tire, just hiding. Pressed low, perfectly still, like they didn't want to be seen until I was close enough to stop. The person was dressed head to toe in black. My headlights caught the faint glint of a ski mask. At first, my brain refused to believe what I was seeing. I even thought, maybe they dropped something. But there were no tools, no smoke, No open hood. Nothing. Just the figure crouched there, and through the windshield, another silhouette in the driver's seat, motionless. Every part of me screamed, "Run." I hit the gas before I even processed what I was doing, flying past that SUV so fast my tires hissed against the wet pavement. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. But a few seconds later, I saw headlights appear in my rearview mirror, not from the SUV I passed, but from somewhere farther behind, around a curve. A pair of bright white beams flicked on out of nowhere and started gaining. At first, I thought it might be a coincidence. Another driver on the road. But then the lights grew closer, faster. Within seconds, they were right on my bumper, so close I couldn't even see their hood. The glare filled my car. I sped up, 70, then 80. The curves made my Corolla tremble, but the SUV behind me stayed locked on, matching every move. I tapped my brakes. Nothing. I switched lanes. They followed. Then it happened. They rammed me. It wasn't hard enough to spin me out, but the jolt was sharp, a deliberate hit. My coffee cup went flying, sloshing across the console. I bit my lip so hard it drew blood. I realized then, this wasn't random. They were trying to stop me. My phone had fallen somewhere near the floorboard, vibrating from a message. I couldn't risk reaching for it. The road was too narrow, too slick. I was boxed in by cliffs on one side and black ocean on the other. I remember whispering, "Please, please don't let me die here." The SUV behind me surged again, this time swerving sideways, as if trying to pull up beside me. I caught a glimpse of tinted windows, completely black. No license plate visible. That's when training from a self-defense seminar flickered in my head. Never go home. Never pull over. Get to a public place. Except, there wasn't one for miles. Then, through the sheets of rain ahead, I saw it. A dim orange glow. A gas station. Maybe a mile and a half up. A place I'd stopped once before for coffee on a night shift. I pressed my horn, flicked my high beams on and off, hoping someone there might notice. The SUV noticed too. It accelerated, bumping me again, harder this time. My car fishtailed. I screamed, fighting the wheel. By pure luck, I stayed on the road. The station came into view. Northview Fuel and Diner, glowing like a tiny island in the dark. I yanked the wheel toward the exit ramp, my tires screeching. The SUV tried to follow, but took the turn too fast, skidding into the opposite lane before correcting. I tore into the parking lot, slamming my horn non-stop, headlights flashing. The only person visible inside was a woman at the counter, maybe in her 50s, wearing a blue flannel shirt. She looked up, startled, as I pulled up right to the front door. I threw my car in park and bolted inside. "Someone's chasing me! Call 911!" I yelled. The woman didn't hesitate. She grabbed the phone with one hand and a shotgun from under the counter with the other. We both looked out through the glass as the SUV idled across the road, lights still on. I could feel it. Whoever was inside was watching. After a few seconds, the headlights cut out. Then, nothing. It sat there, engine idling, invisible behind the glare of rain. The woman, her name tag said Lynn, locked the doors, set the phone down, and kept her eyes on the lot while I tried to breathe. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I could still taste metal from where I'd bitten my lip. We waited like that for maybe 30 seconds. Then, suddenly, the SUV reversed, turned, and disappeared back onto the highway. By the time the troopers arrived, about 15 minutes later, I could barely string words together. They took my statement, then two of them left to check the stretch of road where I'd seen the broken-down SUV. They were gone for over an hour. When they came back, their faces said everything. They'd found the silver SUV empty. The hazards were off, no one around. But there were footprints in the snow leading from the back of the vehicle into the tree line, and zip ties scattered on the ground. The plates came back as stolen. One of the troopers, Officer Miller, said there had been 3 similar cases in the past month, all women, all late at night. All reported being followed after passing a stranded vehicle. 2 had managed to escape. 1 hadn't. Her car was found near Hope, 20 miles down the same stretch I'd driven. Driver's door open, engine still running. They never found her. I stayed at that gas station until dawn. Lynn made me coffee with so much sugar it tasted like syrup and told me to stay under the lights where the cameras could see. I remember asking her why she had a shotgun. She said, "Honey, you work out here long enough. You stop believing the worst can't happen." Before I left, she showed me her security footage. The timestamp was 11:46 p.m. You could see me pulling in, headlights blinding the camera, and behind me, the SUV turning into the lot. But when she rewound it a few minutes earlier, the same SUV had driven past that station going north, the opposite direction, almost 2 hours before I ever showed up. They'd been out there waiting. The next few weeks were a blur. The police never found who did it. 2 days later, another trooper called to tell me the same silver SUV was discovered burned out in a quarry outside Girdwood. No plates. VIN scratched off. I quit my job 3 months later and moved to Oregon. I told myself it was for better hours, but truthfully, I couldn't drive alone anymore. Sometimes I think about that night, about the split second between slowing down and seeing that crouched figure, about how close I came to pulling over. I still can't pass a car with its hazards on without my pulse spiking. People like to say, trust your instincts. But they don't tell you that your instincts sometimes scream and you have to decide whether to listen. That night, mine screamed loud enough to save my life. I was 23 when I took that job with the road crew up in northern Idaho. Long days, hot sun, and enough blisters to last a lifetime. But weekends were freedom. A few hours where work boots could turn into hiking shoes, and beer tasted like reward. My buddy Ethan had this old beat-up Chevy that rattled more than it ran, and one Friday evening, he tossed me the idea of camping out by Stillwater Lake. Said we could take a couple of friends, unwind for the weekend, get away from all the noise. Sounded good to me. By Saturday morning, it was Ethan, his cousin Ben, my co-worker Mia, her roommate Kayla, and me, piled into that Chevy with 2 tents, a cooler, and 0 sense of planning. The dirt road leading to Stillwater was a maze of potholes and thick mud from last week's rain. Every bump felt like the truck was falling apart, but Ethan just laughed and said, "Adventure, man. This is what people pay for." By the time we reached the lake, the sun was already dipping, turning the water into this sheet of dark glass. Pines surrounded us on every side, tall, unmoving, and too quiet. We set up camp on a patch of uneven ground near the water line. It wasn't perfect. The air smelled damp and earthy, the kind of scent that clings to your clothes. But there was something beautiful about the isolation. No cars, no phones, just the crackle of a campfire and the rippling lake reflecting the stars. That peace didn't last long. The next afternoon, while gathering firewood, Ben found something. A trail, barely visible, half swallowed by undergrowth. It looked like it hadn't been walked in years. He waved us over, grinning like he'd discovered treasure. "Let's check it out," he said. We followed the trail deeper into the woods, branches scratching our arms, the light dimming the further we went. After 10 minutes, we stumbled upon an old cabin. It looked forgotten by time. The roof sagged, wood blackened with rot, windows cracked like spider webs. The door hung open, creaking softly in the wind. Maya whispered. That looked straight out of a horror movie, but Ethan was already pushing the door wider. Inside smelled like mold and metal. The floor was covered in dust, except for a few spots where footprints had disturbed it. Fresh ones. My stomach tightened. The cabin was small. One room, maybe used as a hunter's shelter decades ago. But the workbench in the corner told a different story. Tools lay scattered. Knives, hooks, and saws. Most of them sharp and clean. Too clean. A few had dried, dark stains that made my throat go dry. A pile of animal hides was thrown into one corner, but they were recent, still smelling faintly of iron and decay. Ethan tried to laugh it off. Probably some hunter still uses this place. But then I noticed something. Hanging from a nail above the bench was a set of keys, still swinging gently like someone had touched them not long ago. We left fast. The walk back to camp was silent. Even Ethan stopped joking. The forest seemed to shift around us. Every creak of a branch sounded closer than before. By the time we saw our tents again, the sky was bleeding orange and purple, and the shadows looked too deep to be natural. That night, the woods fell silent. No insects, no frogs, no movement. Just the soft hiss of our fire. Ethan opened a beer, trying to cut the tension. You're all acting like we found a murder shack. It's just some hermit's cabin. Mia stared at him, her face pale in the firelight. You didn't see the footprints? They weren't old. Someone's out there. Ben nodded slowly. And those hides, they weren't just animals. No one spoke after that. Around midnight, I started feeling it. That heavy, prickling awareness that we weren't alone. I told myself it was paranoia until I caught movement just past the firelight. Someone was standing between the trees, too still, too tall. At first I thought it was just a trick of the shadows, but when the flames shifted, I saw a faint glint near what could have been a shoulder. Metal? A knife? Ethan, I whispered. There's someone out there. He grabbed the flashlight and shined it toward the tree line. The beam cut through branches. Nothing. But when he swung it back, I saw it clearly this time. A boot, half hidden behind a trunk. The tread was deep, matching the ones from the cabin. Mia gasped. Kayla started crying softly. Ethan swore and shouted into the dark. Hey, who's there? No answer. No sound, just the crackle of the fire. Then, footsteps. Slow, deliberate, crunching leaves just outside the circle of light. Ben grabbed the hatchet we'd used for firewood. We're leaving. Now Ethan hesitated. Driving that road at night's a death wish. So is staying here, I said. That settled it. We threw everything into the back of the truck. Tents, half-burnt logs, whatever we could grab. The fire still hissed as we tore away from the site, mud spraying behind us. But the worst part wasn't what we left behind. It was what followed. Kayla screamed first. There's someone! Running! I turned just in time to catch a blur between the trees, keeping pace with the truck. I swear, for a moment, I saw the reflection of eyes. Wide, glassy, unblinking. Then it was gone. Ethan floored it. The truck fishtailed through mud, headlights flickering like dying candles. When we finally hit gravel road, the world seemed to open again. No trees, no shadows. Just open space and the sickly orange glow of the nearest town miles ahead. We didn't stop until we were parked under a streetlight outside a diner, shaking, covered in dirt. Nobody talked much on the drive back home. The next day, Ethan went back alone to retrieve what we'd left behind. When he returned, his face was pale. He said the campsite was gone. The tents, the cooler, everything. The fire pit had been scattered, and the ground was covered in boot prints. Not just one set. Several. Circling where we'd sat that night. He didn't say much else, just handed me something he found stuck into a tree trunk near the lake, a rusted hook, the kind we'd seen in the cabin. We never went camping again. Even now, whenever I drive past those woods, I keep my eyes on the road and my windows up. Because somewhere out there, past Stillwater Lake, there's a cabin that isn't empty, and someone who doesn't like visitors.